lateral to the midline, all the way up to the tip of the mandibles, and then you want to make a couple little windows. So cut down the side of the abdomen on both sides, and then you can cut this open so it flaps open more. And I cut one of the arms off too, so you can just do it so it opens a little bit better. The other thing that I did was I cut down both sides of the jaw so that you can see the inside of the jaw better. So remember, there are a bunch of holes to find. The first two holes, the most anterior ones, are your internal nares. Then you have the eustachian tubes. There's this bump right here at the back of the throat that's called the laryngeal prominence. And the opening in the middle is the glottis, and that goes into the lungs. Okay, just behind or dorsal to that is the opening to the esophagus, which goes into the stomach. Okay, and then lateral to the opening to the esophagus are two openings that go into the vocal sac. Okay, those are the vocal sac openings. All right, so now you have the mouth down, and once you get your little windows open, you're going to notice that there's the heart. Okay, we're going to go over the heart later. The heart has 3 chambers, right and left atrium and a ventricle. Just posterior to the heart is the big liver. Okay, if you lift up the liver here, you'll find a big telltale vein, the hepatic portal vein. And just next to the hepatic portal vein is going to be this big stinky balloon, which is your gallbladder. All right? So the stomach forms a big smiley face around the ventral side of the abdomen. And within that smiley face is the mesentery that's known as the lesser omentum. And in that mesentery, you can see these pink arteries going to the stomach, which are the gastric arteries, and blue veins coming from the stomach, which are the gastric veins. Now, when the stomach comes around and then curves back on itself, you see that there is a big change in diameter. Okay, and that change in diameter right here is where the pyloric sphincter is. Okay, so in the lesser omentum, we saw that there was the gastric arteries and veins, but if we pick up the lesser omentum around the area where the pyloric sphincter is, we can also see that there's this gray strip of tissue that's in the lesser omentum. This is the pancreas. Okay, it's just this little strip of tissue. All right, now when the pyloric sphincter starts and the pancreas is located there, that first part of the small intestine that runs the length of the pancreas, that's called the duodenum. All right, and the duodenum will start to get really coily. Okay, and once it gets coily and it starts to have this mesentery where all of these blood vessels are, okay, this big mesentery is all holding together this part of the small intestine. Mesentery is called the mesentery proper, and this portion of the small intestine is called the jejunal ileum. Okay, so the duodenum only runs in that one direction. Okay, the jejunal ileum is this whole thing. The jejunal ileum ends and the large intestine begins where there's this huge change in diameter. Okay, so it goes from this really small intestine to this gigantic balloon here. This is the large intestine or colon. Okay, and then everything leaves through the cloaca. All right, so other things. We found the pancreas. So what we'll need to do now is clear all the digestive organs over to the frog's right side to find the spleen. And the spleen is this bean structure right here. Okay. Another thing you'll notice is that these structures right here, the black and yellow structures. These are eggs, and they're held together in the ovary of the frog. And the frog oviposits them out her cloaca through all of these tubes here, which is the oviduct. Okay, so the oviduct is really huge. Now, if we look toward the medial edge of where the oviduct is, you'll see these blue structures. There's one on this side, and then there's one on this side that's not so blue. This is the kidney. Okay, there's a kidney over here, there's a kidney over here. And I forgot, if we look up toward the anterior portion of the frog near where the liver is, you'll see that there are two pink structures. There's one on this side and one on this side. These are the lungs. Okay, so you have heart, liver, gallbladder, stomach, pancreas, duodenum, jejunal ileum, mesentery proper, lesser omentum, colon, spleen, kidneys, ovaries or testes, oviduct, and lungs. Okay?
Which one is Wolfian duct?
That is, okay, so what the, we're not going to see it. I'm not going to test over it. So from the also carries sperm from around that area. So if you have a male, you'll have two little yellowish testes up near the top of the kidneys. And the Wolfian duct carries urine and stuff like that from the kidneys and urine. The one thing that I forgot to mention is that toward the cloacal region, you'll find this bag-like structure. Okay, so that's the urinary bladder. Okay, so that's the frog. Now the pigeon.
Do you have to know these? The whole thing, sorry.
Next week. Next week we're gonna go over
Is
those.
there a greater omentum in the frog or just
I
a
don't
lesser?
know, just the lesser one. Lesser in the mesentery proper. Okay, so now for the pigeon, what you'll have to do is start up at the beak, and you're gonna cut down one side of the beak. All right, and you're gonna cut all the way through so that you can see the esophagus. And if you handle the esophagus with your hands, you'll notice that it stretches out really far. Okay, so birds like this that eat seeds will kind of collect the seeds in their esophagus, and then the esophagus expands even more to this huge bag, and that bag is called the crop. Okay, and it's in here that stones and stuff help grind up the seeds that they swallow. Okay, so this is really gross. Okay, so the crop is this big area, and then the crop eventually will carry food to this big stomach. Okay, and if you touch it, it's really hard. The upper portion of the stomach is called the gizzard, and the gizzard is a grinding area. I don't know why it's hard like that, but it's gross. Okay, so once the gizzard stops, we have the start of the small intestine or the duodenum. And if you can see, as the duodenum curves around like that, there's this organ in the middle. That is the pancreas, sorry. Okay, the spleen is this bean-like structure right here underneath the stomach. Okay, so spleen tiny, pancreas is pretty big here. Okay, this structure right here is the heart. If we look on both sides of the heart toward the back, you're going to see these real spongy structures here. Okay. These are the lungs. Okay, so they're on either side here. I don't want to dig this out because it smells really bad behind you. But they're on both sides toward the body wall, just behind the heart. Okay, the structure that's just above the stomach and below the heart, that's the liver. Mine kept coming apart. It's really hard, disgusting. Okay, so the small intestine is very lengthy. It straightens out right about here. See this? Okay, this is the large intestine. All right, it's even smaller in diameter than the small intestine. I know it's the large intestine because it's right here before the outhole, the cloaca, and there are these two little structures right here. Those are called the ceca, C-A-E-C-A. There's one is called a cecum, and those aid with digestion. They're kind of like our appendix. All right. Along the back of the body wall, you'll see these two bean-like structures way in the back. Okay. Can you see that all right on Savannah? These are the kidneys. Oh, okay. I must have missed it. I'll put it on there. Okay, there's kidneys. Sorry, I read it. There's two kidneys. There's one on this side, and then there's one on this side. I didn't dig it out of the. It's right here. Okay, and then these two whitish things right here. These are the testes. So I have a boy. All right, so they're the testes. Okay, and that's it. Simple. Laryngeal prominence, and the glottis is the hole, and it goes into the trachea. So, oh yeah, you guys come back. Okay, sorry, if you stick your probe down the glottis, you'll get into the trachea here. So I would suggest doing that so that you can see these cartilage rings. Okay, and those cartilage rings tell you where the trachea is. Okay, this expansive area here is the esophagus. This is the trachea that brings air into the lungs. Okay, and you can tell the difference because this has little cartilage rings on it. This is not, just gross. Okay, all right.